You sit down to work. You have everything you need, the time, the task, the intention, and within 4 minutes, you are somewhere else entirely. Not because you chose to leave, you just did. You picked up your phone without deciding to, you opened a new tab without meaning to, you started thinking about something completely unrelated and genuinely cannot explain how you got there. And the worst part is not the distraction itself. The worst part is what comes after. The low-grade frustration, the sense that the day slipped through your fingers again, the quiet suspicion that maybe your brain just does not work the way it is supposed to. You've probably tried the obvious things, turning off notifications, using a timer, telling yourself to just focus. And it works for a few days. Then it doesn't, and you're back to the same loop, wondering if this is just who you are. Here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. Your brain is not broken. It's not lazy. It's not undisciplined. It is responding exactly the way a human brain was built to respond to a world it was never designed for. Your brain was not built for sustained, voluntary, single-point attention. That is not a natural state for a human nervous system. What it was built for is rapid attention shifting, scanning the environment constantly for anything new, anything rewarding, anything potentially dangerous. For thousands of years, a wandering mind kept you alive. Staying too focused on one thing meant missing the predator in your peripheral vision. The problem is that same ancient scanning system is now running inside an environment deliberately engineered to hijack it. Every notification, every scroll, every tab is a tiny predator your brain cannot ignore. And the more you give in to those hijacks, the stronger those pathways become. Neuroscientists call this dependent plasticity. Your brain physically restructures itself around whatever you repeatedly pay attention to. This is not a character flaw. It's a wiring problem, and wiring can be changed. I'm going to show you 3 habits that restructure your brain's attention system at the biological level. Not productivity hacks, not motivation tricks, actual neural rewiring that changes what focus feels like by default. And the third one is the one that changes everything. It's the one most people skip because it sounds too passive to be powerful. But researchers at Harvard Medical School identified it as the single most underused tool for building long-term cognitive focus. Miss it, and you'll be managing distraction for the rest of your life, instead of outgrowing it. So stay with me until the end. Before we talk about building focus, we have to talk about what's actually destroying it. Every time you switch tasks, every time you check your phone mid-sentence, flip to a different tab, or respond to a notification, your brain pays a cost. Cognitive scientists at the University of California, Irvine call it attention residue. The technical definition is this: when you shift your attention away from a task before it's complete, part of your cognitive bandwidth stays attached to the original task for up to 23 minutes afterward. You're not just distracted in the moment, you're cognitively depleted for nearly half an hour after a single switch. Think of it like a glass of water you keep knocking over before it fills up. Every interruption empties the glass. You spend all day filling and spilling, and wonder why you never feel sharp. The attention anchor fixes this by giving your brain one thing it desperately needs but almost never gets: a committed starting ritual. Here's how it works. Before you begin any work session, you do one 60-second physical action that is always the same. Always. It could be making tea, putting on a specific playlist, doing 5 slow breaths, placing both hands flat on your desk. The specific action doesn't matter. The consistency does. What you're building is a conditioned neural trigger. Your brain learns that this action means deep work begins now. Over time, the ritual stops being a decision and starts being an automatic gateway into focus state. Dr. Judson Brewer at Brown University calls this cue-based neural priming. The brain links the ritual to the cognitive state that followed it, and eventually the ritual begins pulling the state with it automatically. Do it for every single work session for the next 2 weeks. Same action every time. Watch your entry into focus get faster and more effortless with each repetition. You're not forcing concentration, you're programming a door. But getting in the door is only half the problem. The other half is what happens inside. Here's something that will make you look at your screen differently. The average knowledge worker has 37 browser tabs open at any given moment. 37. Each one of those tabs is not just using processing power on your computer, it is using processing power in your brain. Your visual cortex registers everything in your peripheral environment, even things you are not consciously looking at. Every tab, every notification badge, every open document is a low-level signal your brain is quietly tracking. Neuroscientists call this the attentional capture effect. Visual complexity in your environment automatically fragments your attention, even when you think you are focused. Your brain cannot fully commit to the task in front of it when it is simultaneously monitoring everything around it. Your working environment is not neutral. It is either helping your brain focus or quietly destroying it. The single window rule is exactly what it sounds like. When you begin a work session, close everything that is not directly related to the one thing you are working on right now. Not minimized, closed. One window, one task, nothing else visible. This feels uncomfortable at first, almost aggressive in its simplicity, but that discomfort is actually the feeling of your brain stopping its background monitoring for the first time in hours. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that visual simplification of the workspace reduced task completion time by 27% and significantly increased self-reported feelings of clarity and control. Think of it like this. Trying to focus with 30 open tabs is like trying to have a quiet conversation in a room where 30 televisions are all on at once. You might technically manage it, but it will cost you everything. Close the tabs, close the windows. Give your brain one thing to look at. That is not minimalism, that is neuroscience. Now, those two habits will change your environment and your entry ritual, but there's a third level. It's the one that determines whether any of this sticks long term, and it's the one I told you at the beginning not to miss. Here's what nobody in the productivity space will tell you. The reason your focus keeps collapsing is not a discipline problem, it's a recovery problem. Your brain's capacity for sustained, voluntary attention is not infinite. It is a depletable resource governed by a system neuroscientists call the default mode network, the part of your brain that activates during mental rest, reflection, and mind wandering. Here's the counterintuitive part. That network is not your enemy. It's not what distracts you, it's what restores you. Researchers at Harvard Medical School found that people who allowed their default mode network to fully activate at least twice a day through genuine, screen-free, unstructured rest demonstrated measurably stronger focus capacity, faster cognitive recovery, and significantly lower rates of mental fatigue compared to those who did not. Twice a day, that's the threshold. Here's the problem. Most people never actually rest. They take breaks that are just different kinds of stimulation. You finish a work session and immediately check Instagram. You step away from your laptop and open your phone. You're not resting your attention, you're redirecting it. And a redirected attention system never fully recovers. The restoration window is this. Once in the morning and once in the afternoon, you take 10 minutes of genuine, non-stimulating rest. No phone, no podcast, no content. You sit, stand, or walk slowly and let your mind go wherever it wants without guiding it. You stare out a window. You sit in silence. You let the default mode network do the one thing it was designed to do. This is the habit that looks too passive to matter, but what's actually happening during those 10 minutes is that your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for all voluntary attention, decision-making, and sustained concentration, is being actively rebuilt. It's not wasting time, it's doing the deepest restoration work it is capable of. Dr. Mary Helen Imordino Yang at the University of Southern California calls this neural consolidation, the process by which your brain integrates recent experience, clears cognitive residue, and prepares the attentional system for the next demand. You cannot shortcut it. You cannot substitute it with low stimulation content. You can only give it space. 20 minutes a day, that's it. 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon. Non-negotiable. Screen-free. The people who protect this time are not doing less, they're doing more, with a brain that is actually capable of sustaining what they start. You are not someone who struggles to focus. You are someone whose brain has never been given the restoration it needs to focus the way it actually can. That distinction changes everything. Here's the truth you now carry that most people are still searching for. Focus is not a personality trait. It's not something you either have or you do not. It's a biological system, and like every biological system, it responds to what you consistently give it. You now know how to prime your brain before you work. You know how to eliminate the invisible competition your environment creates, and you know how to give your brain the one thing that makes all of it sustainable. You don't need a new productivity app. You don't need more willpower. You need a brain that has been properly conditioned, cleared, and restored. And now you know exactly how to do all three. The version of you that sits down and actually does what you came to do, that version is not far away. It's just a few repeated choices ahead. Share this one with someone who ends every day feeling like they were busy but not productive, because busyness and focus are not the same thing, and their brain deserves to know the difference. Save this one and come back to it. These habits don't change you after one viewing. They change you after 100 repetitions. Start today.